Hello, hello, welcome. So, I got 10 questions that were sent to me, and we're going to go through them today. So, question number one: what inspired you to pursue a career in music production? How did you get started in the industry? Okay. I was working at Warner Brothers Studio. My friend got me a job that I waited a long time for an opening for, and it was on a movie called Seventh Son, and I was in the editorial department where they would cut the film after it was already shot. They would just like kind of splice everything together. I forget what you call them right now. What is it? Close with the music supervisors and the why can't I remember this? Oh my goodness. Editor? The editor? The film editor? Let me look real quick. What do you call a film editor um, for a movie? Picture editor? No, that is not it. Well, this is off to an interesting start. Um, I guess it's the editor's department. I don't know. They had a special word for it. Anyways, I was working there and I got invited to go listen to the mix down of all the orchestra instruments that were recorded at Abbey Road up at this beautiful studio in Malibu that was overseeing the ocean. It was on this cliff. It was actually really, really scary to drive up it and to drive back down it. But man, that was a beautiful house with a studio in it. And I met the composer and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Watching them mix all the strings, all the horns, all the drums, everything that came from Abbey Roads and made it to the movie and to the picture. And then after that, or it was before that, I also got to watch them mix the sound effects, mix the dialogue even, and some Foley over at the ADR stages at Warner Brothers as well. And I was like, yo, like sound, music, audio, all of that is where I need to be. All of this kind of film and editing and software for like Adobe Premiere or After Effects seems really confusing to me. So I got offered to work on the next movie as well. And, I was a PA at that time. And I said, no, I think I'm going to go to school to learn more about this audio stuff. And, I was in bands early on in high school, and I really liked rock and metal and punk music. So I knew how to play drums. I knew a little bit about guitar. And I was like, I want to learn how to make pop music. So I went to school. I went to Icon Collective and learned about the more progressive way to make electronic dance music at the end of the day. A lot of really cool people were coming out of there at the time. Jaws, he was friends with like Marshmello and like Mac J was coming out of there. A lot of really cool dubstep guys, Sullivan King. There's just so many people that came out of that school at this point that are so impressive. I learned a lot, and after that, I got a opportunity to work at Paramount Recording Studio. So I went ahead and I started working at Paramount Recording Studio, cleaning toilets, getting people food. I was a runner. And then I worked my way slowly up to assisting on sessions and then eventually becoming an engineer. And right as I was becoming an engineer and doing full on production sessions slash like setting up drums, recording everything from, drums and bands to just rappers or vocalists, I started getting deeper into production and I got opportunities to write and produce for Dark Child's camp through a friend of mine, Reezy Tunes. And he invited me up and they thought I had something to offer their camp. So I just got a bunch of like acapellas from Rodney and started working on them. Going in, I was like, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. Like for it was a big deal to me. He's got like Grammys and like the songs he's worked on are absolutely incredible. A lot of work went into him, a lot of talent. I was like, I want to impress this guy. So I gave him like 15 versions of anything that I was working on. And he was impressed with that, I think, more than anything. Just my work ethic and how I would try new different things. I would speed a song up. I would flip it into a dance thing. I would flip it into an R&B or pop thing. So he kept me around for a while, and at that point, I was just exploding with ideas of learning more and wanting to know more about instrumentation, Melodyne, how to really dive into mixing and vocals and all this other stuff. And I was able to watch it all unfold in front of me. So that's pretty much the long-winded answer to how I got my career in production and music. And eventually, after some years of that, I got some opportunities, got a couple placements here and there, and then started working on finding independent artists to work with as well, and exploring my own artistry. So, yeah, next question. You work across multiple genres, including pop, EDM, dance music, and country. How do you approach producing for such diverse styles? Well, it goes back to being a kid. I would listen to all of that, and I still do today. I listen to dance music, I listen to country, I listen to pop. I grew up a little bit in California and a little bit of Texas, so my country roots are probably in that Texas world a little bit. But I still consider like southern rock or just rock in general and country twang and stuff like that. It could be anywhere. It doesn't have to be in like the southern U.S. states. Like there's folk music in Scotland and Canada and everything, and country everywhere. So but for me, a lot of grassroots country was getting thrown at me from Texas, but at the same time, so was a lot of metal, Pantera, Metallica, Slayer, Rob Zombie, like all these really cool things, and then Nirvana, some grunge, some punk, and then when I came back to California, I was really getting into the punk scene at that point with like everything from the Dead Kennedys to the Exploited, Rancid, obviously really loving Blink 182 and Sum 41. That's where I'd probably say my pop started coming into play, right? I was really into like, okay, a lot of good country, old classics, new stuff on the radio. Same with metal and punk, like old classics, really heavy stuff, also what's on the radio. So you put all that together, next thing you know, I'm listening to a lot of Blink 182, a lot of Nickelback, Avril Lavigne, stuff like that. And then I start really hearing some great pop songs that are just written so well pop up, like Vanessa Carlton or Carly Rae Jepsen, Bieber, Taylor Swift, Pink. And I'm just like, wow, all these songs are so good. They have such a place in this world. They are parallel to culture and what's happening at the moment. And then that's when I started getting also into hip hop, I would say as well, through obviously like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, a little bit of the Texas hip hop as well, I have to say, or not. I wouldn't say well, Bun B, Texas, but like Midwest Atlantic, like I don't know, just all over the place. Hip hop came to me from every which direction. Like I was listening to Ludacris, Wu-Tang Clan, Dr. Dre, Bun B, everything all at the same time. And then I was listening to underground stuff. I was listening to popular stuff. So yeah, and then pop music started kind of incorporating a little bit of hip hop, rap with pop, Black Eyed Peas, just some really cool stuff. And I just would listen to all these genres growing up, and I truly loved each one. Dance music came a little later, to be honest. I was listening to when all my friends were raving in high school, I was still very much into rock and just house parties. So I didn't really listen to the early happy hardcore and stuff like that. Sasha and Digweed. I do appreciate them, and I listened to them later, but I really got into it when Skrillex came in, and Swedish House Mafia, because it was on the radio, and I was like, hey, this is really cool. I was just exposed to it so naturally that I was like, this is dope. Let me go dive into this deeper. Then I got into, Afrojack, David Guetta, Chucky, Laid Back Luke, and like all that kind of like house stuff, electro. Then it moved into dubstep when I found out about Skrillex and like UKF. And then it just kept progressing from there. And the more popular it got, I started listening to really like great pop songs that were finding their way into dance records. And obviously, like Swedish House Mafia had huge pop hits, but so do a lot of other awesome guys out there like Sam Felt, Topic, Medusa. So it's really interesting to see what popular music has become through EDM as well. And yeah, so then obviously I was producing it. So I just like tried to recreate all these tracks or like make something that would sound like Avicii or Then I would go the next day and try like a metal song that would sound like System of a Down or like Linkin Park. And then I would like try to do like a R&B pop songs, like, hip hoppy thing like Post Malone. And I found out I can kind of sing, you know, with some kind of swag and like some mumbly stuff. So I got into like a little mumble project for a second there and tried some rock, tried screaming, tried pop. And then I found I can really, really write and help write lyrics, melodies, instruments, drums, all of it for other people because I didn't really love to sing. So, yeah. Can you tell us more about your favorite Waves plugins and how they contribute to your sound? Absolutely. And since I've read all these questions already, I prepared a few. So let's go in and talk about my favorite Waves plugin ever, and that is the CLA 3A. This thing is insane. I mean, obviously it adds some gain to whatever you put it on, but you just put it on something and it expands it, yet still compresses it. It just does some magic that I just really, really like. CLA 3A, it compresses something while it also doesn't take that kind of crunch feeling and approach that, say, OTT would or a glue compressor would. It's very interesting. I would highly suggest you guys trying putting this on a vocal, try putting it on a bass, drums. That's the thing. It's a Swiss Army knife. It'll work on literally anything: a music loop, a drum loop, vocals, your entire mix bus. But you do have to be a little careful with it because once it does start compressing, it compresses. And you want to, I like to use it as something that kisses compression, but really expands the sound. And I don't know what's under the hood here that's really doing that necessarily. But it is modeled after a real analog unit. So I love that. Let's go to the second, R bass. Boom. Put it on your 808, put it on your bass, put it on melody loops, put it on a cello, put it on anything you just want beefier and warmer. And you can put the frequency further up if you're like on, say, a cello or an orchestra group, or you can take it right down to the sweet spot if you're like on a kick drum or an 808 or a bass. And then, you just want to kind of like pull the intensity down or blast it. Every now and then I'll even throw this on 808 and just like, I will sample it like crazy. And I'll just go ahead and like keep reprocessing the same sample a ton of times over and over with R bass. Maybe I'll start up here at 220 and get it all the harmonics out of that. Then I'll go ahead and reuse it down here and get the bass now popping off of it. And that's just if I'm really experimenting and distorting a sound. And, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But if you just play fair with this thing and just throw it on a bass and find the sweet spot, don't overdo it, pull down the gain a little bit if you need to, you're going to find that this thing will really expand your bass and make it punch and hit and subby. So I really love that. I also really love the SSL EV2. There's something about this just sounds to me like the SSL at models, and I was at Paramount, so yes, I've been on the SSL boards. I really only use this at the end of the day for a little bit of compression, usually on a vocal. I don't really use it on much else, maybe an acoustic guitar. And then I'll play with the EQ, of course, and maybe some filtering. But yeah, this compressor, and I only kiss it at about like 3 to 6. I don't really go too deep into smashing this thing. I know you can, but I don't do that. And then I really love the API 550B EQ. At the end of the day, I always find myself just like doing one move on here. Like I usually use the 2 decibels up at I want to say 12K or anything in here, just whatever makes sense at about 2, not 4. If I do 4, I think it sounds good, and then I realize I got to go back into the project, change it down to 2. Up here, this is just, it does too much for me. I don't really mess around with this band. The low band I used to use quite a bit, but let's face it, just get the right source material, throw on the R bass. You don't really need to do anything here, in my opinion. So how I use this is, it's my one move. I just put up 2, play around with 5K, 8K, 10K, 12K, etc. Yeah. So those are my favorite Waves plugins. Oh, and also let me just throw this one in because this thing is a lifesaver, especially when you do not oh, let's see, do I have it? It's the Waves NS. Come on. I gotta have it. You're kidding. So when you don't have the perfect studio, and you want to get a little room noise out of a microphone, you can use this thing called A B C D E F G H I J. I'm taking time because I want you guys to know about this. Ones NS1. Why didn't it populate? Anyways, whatever. This right here. You just throw this up a little bit, and it takes not really the room noise. Here's the deal. Now that I'm paying attention, I found it. I used to have a computer that was really loud. The fan on it would kick on, and I like to record right here. And I like to even record my artists right next to me so they can see the computer screen and we can communicate a little better. I don't really like the through the glass feeling. And I did that at Paramount even. I put the Sony C800 right in the room with us, and me and XYZ that I don't know, I just don't want to name drop right now. Huge rappers and stuff were just like, yeah, whatever. Even really great singers, songwriters. They just like that feeling of being right next to each other without that plate glass. So every now and then you got to watch out because like your fan will kick on your computer or your laptop. And this, if you just pull this up, will take care of usually that fan noise, any noise coming in to the mic signal. So this NS1, just kiss it. Don't throw it up here. Otherwise, now your vocal is going to start sounding all funky. It should be about, 2 decibel or whatever right here. If it has to go further, then you need to just like get a new computer or like figure out a different recording solution. So anyways, that's a really cool, useful one. Okay, next question. What are my favorite go-to Native Instruments plugins? And what unique features do they offer that you find indispensable? Okay, Native Instruments. I think I pulled up some stuff here. So Guitar Rig, I love Guitar Rig. Self-explanatory, Guitar Rig, you start playing around with all the presets, start tweaking, you can even build stuff with the components section. I'll do that sometimes as well. Beyond that, I love Native Instruments Contact. So Contact for drums, I love anything they have stock that comes with it, but I also really like this Luke Holland kit, and that's from Mixwave, and it's just a custom kit that is really, really slick. Oh, that's my bass. Let's see if I can go ahead and play. Nope. Yeah, there we go. So that thing just sounds super tight. It's, metal drummer, but I like metal drums. What can I say? Another one that I really like to use is the bass, prime bass. I mean, this thing. Like, it's just epic. Let's try that one more time because that was trash. The prime bass. I love the prime bass. So, yeah, love prime bass. You can go through a ton of presets on here and great for some grunge rock and stuff like that. Then I really also like this plugin called Shimmer Strike. This thing's really cool. Check this out. So you got individual hits. Then you have loops. So you have all these different options, and when you're changing BPMs, let's just make it really fast. I'm doing like drum and bass or something. Right, then I want something more groovy, like a house tune. right? Maybe I want something super, super slow because I'm doing more of like a pop song, some Ed Sheeran or something. So you don't have to like go through a bunch of samples and loops and spend too much time on these shakers. They're all really well performed and it's all laid out for you and it just works really well with changing the BPM. So I really like this. Or honestly, this is an answer to the native instruments, but I will play my tambourine that I have or something in the studio to get that super, super live feel. Let's see what else we have as far as questions go. Do you have your own studio in LA? What are some key pieces of equipment or software that you consider essential for your setup? Well, okay. Yes, I do. Absolutely. And I prepared also basically my studio setup. So, my studio setup is a 16-inch MacBook Pro. I have the full maxed out memory. I have 4 terabytes of storage, and it's the best I can get for a laptop, so I can still be mobile. Other than that, for my speakers, I have two Focal Trio 6s. I also have a Focal 6 11-inch sub. And as far as monitoring as well, I also do have a lot of different headphones. I have DAWs, the Manny Marquand series as well. And then for my microphone, I do use a Vanguard V13 often. And I've replaced the tube with a Telefunken tube. It goes into an Apollo X8, and then from there it goes out into a preamp that I use, the Moog Pre-Q2 500 series. After that, it goes into the DBX 520 de-esser. This thing, the best de-esser in the world. There's a plug-in version of it. It's really hard to like kind of get and set up. It's by some random dude or girl, I don't even know. So I just bought the 500 series and it's even better as an actual analog piece of rack gear. Then that goes, and I just kissed this, 1 to 2. You don't obviously want to DS too heavily going in. You can always do some more later, like edits. Then after that, it goes into my Distressor EL8X. So then yeah, just direct in. Usually I don't need to put anything on unless somebody wants some auto tune, or beyond that, it just goes straight into Melodyne and then I send out to reverbs and stuff. I do also have the Rupert Neve 5057 Orbit summing mixer, which is a 16-channel summing mixer where I'll put my drums, my bass, all other instruments, and vocals. So I can do an analog mix for all my artists and songs that I do. So yeah, that is in a nutshell my setup. The question said hardware and software though. Software, I use Ableton. I do have a ton of plugins that are third party. I'm using them less and less these days. I do use the Waves. I do use Fab Filter, and I'll use Ozone, especially for their RX stuff to like clean up pops and clicks. I want to say something that's interesting though. I also use OBS a lot, and that is the streaming software that I'm using right now to speak to you guys through. And I think it's a huge necessity, in my opinion, for what I'm trying to do these days. And I'm not just trying to make music and get placements only. I want to create content. And it took me a long time to even realize I want to create content. I thought for a while I had to make some artwork and the music video for songs, and I was like, I don't want to do all that. Now I'm realizing the power of just teaching and showcasing what I do in the DAW and stuff like this, and answering questions or doing a podcast. I want to do a podcast at one point. And streaming, live stream, or recording your screen and audio coming into your computer, versus I'll eventually get to a point where I have multiple cameras, and then you just sky's the limit with where we're going these days. So I'm really into OBS as a software. And I might check out Final Cut Pro. I've used Premiere Pro for a little bit. It's a little too intense for all what I'm trying to do. I think Final Cut might be easier. Anyways, So yeah, those are there's a little studio tour right now. I'll probably do a 2.0 at one point. I changed things up a lot. Show you guys all my guitars, my drums, my other stuff, basses. But anyways, the next question: which DAWs do you prefer for different stages of your production process, and why? Okay, okay, loaded DAW question. Ableton, 100% for me because I've done Pro Tools, I've done Cubase, done Fruity Loops, I've done Logic. I've gotten into all of it. And obviously Pro Tools is your like it sounds amazing for vocals and recording instruments in. It does. Absolutely. There's some little thing in the algorithm that makes a vocal sound the way it does. I've found that that happens also through sending it through Melodyne. So I still get Pro Tools sound by sending my vocals that I'm recording through Melodyne. It's also just easier for me to stay inside one DAW for everything because if I want to go back and change some vocal stuff, I can just change it inside that session. Even if there's a ton of latency, I try to tell everybody that it is totally possible to take an ear off and still sing a new version of a lyric or fix something. It's you just turn off the monitoring on your actual DAW and sing it in and make sure it's nudged if there is latency into the right spot. So, yeah, I stay inside Ableton for that mixing, mastering, and everything. That said, I do like Pro Tools. I do like Cubase even better than Pro Tools, even for recording vocals, because it also is just insane with production and even some cool vocal tricks. But it's just too much going on, and I don't have time to learn it in and out the way I know Ableton. I do go in there every now and then if I go into another DAW, it's usually there. Then Fruity Loops. Let's talk Fruity Loops. Fruity Loops is epic, man. The sound of Fruity Loops is pretty intense. And at one point, they did put out plugins, image line that we could put into Ableton and other DAWs. And putting their limiter on and putting their reverb on, it sounded like Fruity Loops. They were discontinued, or you can't get them anymore. Really bums me out because we got that sound for like 2 or 3 months and then they took it away. Yeah, Fruity Loops sounds dope. It also sounds a little colored. Let's be real, but it sounds dope. And I would pick their low end over a lot of other DAWs. Maybe not Logic. Logic and them have great low end. They all have great low end. It depends also what you're using, you know. But like obviously, Fruity Loops has that like thickness and knock. You can get that in other programs as well. Or honestly, if you really want to, do some drums in there and then bounce them out and use them in Ableton or whatever it is that you're doing. So yeah, and I will do that sometimes. People, and I have also, especially working with Darkchild, he would send drums that he came up with on the MPC because the knock, the feel, the swing, you just want to print that into whatever DAW you're working in. Now, the thing I want to talk about though about FL, and I don't know how many other DAWs do this. I'm assuming probably Cubase can do this, and maybe even Studio One and stuff, but I don't know. I know Fruity Loops is doing this. They've built in an AI algorithm so you can take a track and extract the stems. Like you get the vocal out, the drums, the music, and the bass. That's so much easier than going to like lala.ai or fader.com and doing that. So if you want to remix something or you want to pull an idea or a drum sample or something, you can literally just throw in the song, hit extract, and then there's your acapella. Man, I want Ableton to get on that ASAP. That would be just life changing. So, anyways, that's my DAW rant. How do I stay updated with the latest trends and technologies in music production? Oh man, the answer to that would be I'm a psycho and I never sleep, and this is all I ever talk about with my friends and family. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I don't know. Friends will tell me cool stuff. My algorithm now on Instagram is nothing but advertising new technology and plugins to me, so that's kind of big right there. Like, I'll get all the updated advertisements for sample packs, for DAWs, for AI, for VSTs. So That, and then plus research, I'll chat GPT stuff. Sometimes I'll come up with plugins in my head. I'll be like, hey, chat GPT, is there anything out there that can do this, this, that, and this? And then they're like, yeah, there's actually like two things that hardly no one's ever heard of by this little tiny company. Go check it out. Boom. So other than that, word of mouth. Yeah. And then I think I'm going to cut it right there for now. We'll do another one of these, but I think this is long enough. So you guys have any questions for me, please ask. Write a comment, go in my DMs, ask me questions. If there's anything you want me to talk about even further, please go ahead and like and follow me. And if you can, if you want me to thrive with this and you want me to keep doing these and you want to support, I know it's kind of a big ask, but if you can save these to a folder on your Instagram or your TikTok, I think that that might help the algorithm because like it's content that's useful. So only if you like the content though. If you don't like me, leave. I don't want to even hang out with you anyways. So yeah, other than that, ask me questions. I'll dive into whatever you guys want when I have free time and I'm not working on projects. Cheers. Have a good day.